Today we're going to talk about searing, roasting, and carving a rack of lamb. Here in front of us we have a half of a rack of lamb. When you go to the butcher store or your meat counter, what you'll find typically is that your rack of lamb will have 8 or 9 rib bones. When purchasing your rack of lamb, what you want to ask for is a rack of lamb that has been Frenched. This means that the rib bones here have been exposed. Now, what we're going to do to cook this rack of lamb today is we're going to sear it in a pan, and then we're going to finish it off in the oven. So in order to get this guy ready to sear, what I've done is I've left the rack of lamb out at room temperature for about 15 or 20 minutes. This allows for the natural juices inside to loosen up a little bit. Before putting it into the pan, you want to make sure you season it with a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. And we season both sides because we eat both sides. When getting ready to sear, you want your pan to be good and hot. In order to get the pan hot enough, we put a little bit of fat in there. When I sear red meat, I like to use a canola oil or a peanut oil, something that has a high smoking temperature. Once the oil is in the pan, what I look for is a shimmer, almost to the point of smoking. You want to lay it fat side down in the pan. This will allow the fat to render, and as the fat renders or cooks down, it will add flavor to the finished dish. And now what I've got going is I've got a nice sear going. The searing process takes anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. What you're looking for is the color that you want it to have when you're finished cooking it. After it's been searing for a second, you can check it and you can see that the fat has already started to brown up a little bit. You want to push it a little bit. You want to go for a nice brown, nutty sort of color. I've preheated my oven to about 450 degrees. We want to finish it off in the oven for 2 reasons. One, this is a thick, big cut of meat. By the time, if I were to try to finish cooking it all on the stove top, by the time I got it cooked all the way through, 1, my kitchen would be completely filled with smoke, and 2, the outside would be crunchy, crusty, and almost burnt before the inside got cooked all the way through. So I finish it off in the oven. This allows for even cooking time and an even cooking temperature. Now over here, I've got a rack of lamb that we've finished cooking already. I pulled that out and I let that rest for about 5 minutes or so. This allows the juices to redistribute themselves into the meat. When you get ready to slice this, should you want to do single or double chops, you want a good sharp knife with a nice long blade. You want to stand the rack of lamb up with the bones facing you, and using your knife, just simply go down in between each rib chop to the bottom of the chop. Total time in the oven is about 8 minutes or so.